The following episode might contain content that you might not be comfortable listening to. This might range from swearing to references to self-harm and substance abuse. Please proceed with caution and don't hesitate to reach out for help if you need it. What was your childhood like? Would you say it was good? Would you say it was bad? You have good memories of it. If you're still in your childhood, what's your current thoughts on it? Hello, my name is Hazy. Who Killed Hazy? And welcome back to yet another episode of the Only Rain Days podcast. And you already know this is going to be a good one because I keep making the same fucking mistake. Shout out to my editor. She's a fucking beauty. I seemingly refuse to do this type of shit, ahead of time. It's the best way to put it, I guess. I'm now recoiling, thinking about the fact that it's January 31st now, 2 a.m. So it's Wednesday. I told myself I was going to do this last Tuesday, and I somehow just kept pushing it back. And here I am 8 days later, 8 days, flip a coin for all I care. And here I finally am getting to what I told myself I was going to do quite a while ago. But I guess that's just how time flies. I don't want to start on that shit. I'll get back into it another day. But man, all I hope is that the rest of this year, 2024, does not go like this first month, because I went into this month thinking it was going to be a banger of a year for me. And I would say this still has been one of the more hectic months of, I guess, the last couple of years. If I break my life down into chapters, I'd say from like COVID to now. So what? Damn, 4 years almost? Yeah, in the last 4 years, these last couple months have been fucking, yeah, I don't gotta focus on that for now. For now, I want to focus back on, focus my attention back to my original question, which is like the idea of childhood, basically. Because through these last looming hellscape-ish months, where I just kind of think about, well, I've been thinking about everything, I kind of realized something, which is, I'm trying to think of a better word to use than celebrate, because this is not a celebration by any fucking means. But I guess this year, assuming I don't change my ways, I hope I fucking do. But if I don't really change my ways properly, then I will be recognizing. Let's go with that. I'll be recognizing 8 years of inebriation. I guess that's the best word. I was trying to think of like unsobriety or something like that, but it doesn't make sense. But 8 years of being inebriated, basically, because my childhood was relatively normal, I'd say. Lonely at times, made a lot of mistakes and things like that, which I'll get into later, because I actually have this all planned out. Praise be, I'm not as stupid as I feel at times. But yeah, my childhood was like okay, decent, at least in the regards of substance usage and things like that. But 2016, late 2016, probably around like October or something like that, it kind of started my journey with like alcohol. And alcohol was like the first thing I had, like available, first thing I really used. No. I know now that some of my friends were like smoking weed and basically smoking weed and shit like that when I was younger, but I never got the offer for that. But freshman year of high school, 13, is when I started to drink a little bit. I do whatever you fuck, hopefully not every kid, but I did what other people would usually do at that age, if it came down to it, which was I was stealing alcohol from my parents. Home situation was all different types of fucked up at the time, and I just stopped caring. I just wanted to figure out I looked for peace in the immediate. So I was just, when there would be no one in the house, which around that time was pretty frequent, honestly, I would just go downstairs and pour myself like some random soda that I would usually drink at the time. I think it was like Sprite or root beer, something like that, somewhere in between the two. Then I would just pour a fuck ton of vodka into it because I didn't know portions, not until a couple times in. But I would just do that, slam it straight to the face, and then, be all warm in the face. That feeling from vodka, just all warm in the face. I'd sit in my little like mesh chair. It was like a spider web type of thing. I can't even describe it. I don't know the name of it. But I would just sit in that chair and just watch like Russian Badger videos on YouTube and just like let the day pass me by. And I mean, yeah, sure, it was a good feeling. I'm not gonna completely lie and say that it wasn't good. In the immediate, it was good, but looking back on it now, 20 going on 21, looking back on someone that just recently turned 13, oh man, I fucking wish I never started. I wish I would have just done almost anything else. I remember the shit that I was on around that time, which, by the way, I know there's already an advisory warning in the beginning, but I just want to make it known that this episode is me just kind of airing out my own personal grievances, and I'm going to talk about some shit. So, like, here's your second warning. Tread with caution from this point on. But, when I say I wish I did almost anything else, I really do mean it. And I'm really put emphasis on almost anything else, because around that time was when I was still heavy into just self-harm, and I was just kind of fucked up trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. And I just wanted like stability in my life. If I couldn't find a stability, then I wanted an escape. And my escape, I started to turn to alcohol. One time, went to a couple times, and I did a good amount of times before I got caught. But like, I wish I never started, because it was a catalyst for like all the years ahead of me. Because I was at home freshman year when I started all that shit. The year after was when I transferred schools and I was living residential. And I mean, honestly, at that residential school, it was so easy to get drugs. It was so easy. Like, between some white lies I told and my honest truth, I got with all the druggy crowd at the school. And once I knew all of them, it was easy to get whatever I wanted. So I'm at that school, and at that school I continued. I would drink on occasion, whenever someone would bother to like bring a bottle of vodka, or I think it was always vodka. Now I think about it, I don't know why it's so easy for kids to bring, but every now and then I'd buy a bottle of vodka. Sophomore year of high school is also when I started smoking weed. That's when I started getting into nicotine. I jumped into junior year, and that's when I started taking pills, and I started taking acid, a fuck ton of acid. Let me tell you, I've done so much acid, and I love it. Honestly, I love acid. Hell of a drug. I wouldn't recommend it willy-nilly to people, because it's psychedelic. It has a lot of potential to fuck you up, which I'll talk about in a moment. But it's just, when I think about my childhood, and just at this point, I just say childhood for years that seem pretty far away in my head, even though in the grand scheme of things, 7-8 years ago isn't too far away. I realized that like I can't really remember life before I started doing drugs, and I started to just get fucked up, or at the very least wanted to get fucked up. Like it doesn't mesh well. Like I can't think about it. Like, I can sit around with a couple friends, and I can, talk shit, shoot shit, and just like have like occasional memories of things that happened back then, elementary school, middle school, all that shit. I can have like bits and pieces. But when it comes to like actually kind of understanding the full story of just like who I am and how I became this way and all that shit, I can't really think about who I am, who I am, or more so who I was before the drugs entered my life. And that's something that's been fucking me up this month in particular. I've been thinking about it, or this month and the last, I've been thinking about it more and more, because like I've been falling in a lot of ways. I've been fucked up. I'm afraid to say that it's getting worse and worse. I don't know if it's getting worse or worse. I can only tell you in a couple months when I can actually properly look back on everything. But I'm struggling in a way, and to try to avoid the idea that I'm struggling, I've been trying to remember who I am, or who I was, give me some sort of footing that I can work with, some footing I can jump off of. That way I have guidance into, oh, I should be doing this and I should be doing that, because this is what I used to do. I should start there and then figure out what makes sense. But I have nothing. I have nothing in almost any regard, because I'm just so used to just being fucked up on something. Like, I spent ages 13 and 14 just bouncing between very light alcohol usage, and then 15 and 16 I was just smoking every single day away, tripping every 2 weeks, pumping a pill whenever I can. And then the moment I got out of that lifestyle, graduated 16. Once I got to 17, I was smoking whenever I could, drinking whenever I could. And then by the time I was like 18, basically, I had access to everything I wanted, or I had like unrestricted access to alcohol. And that's like, it just all went downhill. Like, I recounted this in I think a video I did. Yeah, one of the videos I did like a month ago or something like that. But like, the grim reality of it all is that in the last 2 years, I've probably haven't spent like 30 days sober, like in general, like regardless of the situation, whatever it is. And I think if you look back on the last 730 days, the last 2 calendar years, I don't think I've spent 30 of them sober. Like, I know there was a week that I was in Florida where I didn't have access to shit, so I was sober then. Otherwise, it would just be like bits and days where maybe I just ran out for a day, or the few days scattered, super fucking scattered, where I decided to just not drink. I tried to, quote unquote, prove to myself that I didn't need it, and I was just, constantly abusing it just for, the fucks of it, basically. But yeah, no, like, I'm on a, I gotta be honest with myself. It's a downward spiral. It's a downward spiral to kind of live like this. And it's downward spiral, obviously, physically, because I know what type of drinker I am. There's nobody should be consuming this amount of alcohol on a daily basis. It's not even like every couple days, or no. I'm like a half gallon of fucking whiskey, half gallon of 40% alcohol. That shit can disappear in 4 to 5 days. And that's like a guarantee. I buy alcohol around the idea that it will disappear within 5 days at most. Like, that's not sustainable. Like, physically, sure, isn't fucking financially and mentally. I mean, it definitely has. Alcohol plays a part in everything, because I know mentally I'm pretty fucked up with it, because every single turn you could possibly think of where something goes wrong, I've conditioned myself to just want to drink, to just like forget about it, or I tell myself, oh, if I drink then I can think about it better, whatever the hell that means, which is kind of true but kind of false at the same time, because I won't think about it clearly. I'll just be able to think about whatever I can actually recall at that time and just fucking run with it. So it doesn't help financially in terms of just like drug usage. Like, I think I just kind of ran the numbers in my head earlier today, like in preparation, because I told myself I could not miss today to actually get this shit out the way. Or not out the way, but, to actually do it. But, I think it's kind of crazy that I'm only 20 years old. I'm only 20 years old, and I have spent at least $10,000 on, like, drugs, basically. At least $10,000 on drugs. I spend about $3,000 a year on alcohol. Probably like about 1.2 ish or so on nicotine a year. And I've been doing that for the last 2-3 years. So right then and there, 4.2 times 2, let's just say 8.4, rounding up to 9 for special occasions and weird shit. In the last 2 years, I've spent $9,000 on just alcohol and nicotine alone, ignoring the fact that I have weed next to me. I've been still buying weed for the last like 6 years of my life. I've been buying nicotine for the last 6 years of my life. I've been buying alcohol for the last 6 years of my life. The amount of acid I've purchased, Adderall, and the Adderalls, the random antidepressants, Xanax. I don't even know what pills I've bought off people at times. I would just take fucking pills. So I've probably had like Xanax, Lexapro, and all that type of shit. Because I know I've had a couple antidepressants. Whether it be a couple different brands or just the fact that it was all one brand. I don't even know. I wouldn't even look at the pill. I would just take shit. Same with fucking painkillers. I would just take shit. So I know for a fact that, I'm 20 in 5 months, almost to the day, I'll be 21. Before my 21st birthday, I'd say it's probably around 15 grand, at least. At this point, I've spent 15 grand on substances, and it never really hit. It really didn't hit me till today when I say the numbers. But I've always had that idea, like as time has been going on, and I would I would try to tell my friends and the people around me, like, hey, you don't want to fuck with substances. Like, if you can live a nice and clean, sober life, the way you should, then you fucking should, because this ain't it. And they laugh and they rebut, and I usually say it in like a joking tone at times, unless I gotta really pull someone out of something. So I would always question like my own validity on statements like that, because I know you cannot trivialize substance use or substance abuse, and especially in a lot of fields of life, but especially from my opinion and from my understanding, when it comes to things with that intertwine with mental health so much, it's really hard to try to give someone advice on something without understanding it, basically. And that goes into a whole nother issue of life where I feel like people are incapable of thinking outside of themselves. I can rant about that for a while, so I will probably have to do something else about that later in life. But it's just hard to try to tell people not to do something when you don't understand it yourself, because why would they listen to you? Like, if you try to get into, I don't know, let's just say cross country, right? Let's just say you want to be a cross country runner. If your random buddy just tries to give you advice on how you should train to be a better cross country runner, you might try it and you might blow it off. But if someone who's established in the field tells you the exact same advice, then you take it for granted. You would take it because it's like, oh, this person knows what's going on. It's like a subconscious bias. It's probably conscious as well, because it's just like they clearly know what they're talking about. It seems like an expert's opinion versus someone just blindly throwing something out, trying to see if it could help you, just analyzing the situation and throwing out an idea. And I always think about that type of shit, because I would try to tell my friends to just be sober. And when I said it, I'm like, at the time, I'm like, oh, I'm only 19. I'm only 20. Like, I don't know if I necessarily have the best background to just be the one to talk about anti-substance abuse. Ignore all the, trials and tribulations and the issues I've seen with my friends, losing a friend to substance abuse and seeing what it has done to the people who still are alive with me. You know, the suicide attempts, the self-harm, the mania people have driven themselves to through various various substances. But I also realize that I do have a level of validity when I speak about my own experiences and just in general, because as much as I hate to admit it, as much as I hate to realize it, you know, I'm not a stranger. I'm not really afraid to call myself an alcoholic. I'm aware of it. I'm trying to do better, but you know, it's not like I'm just like some random college bro that drinks like, you know, 20 Budweisers on the weekends and then decides to tell people, oh, you don't want this type of lifestyle. It's like, no, like, no, that's not it at all. I'm not just someone who just says it because I maybe have seen it a little bit, or I'm just aware that it's not that good. I'm living in it. I've seen it a bunch, and I'm living it. I'm getting fucked up and blasted every single day for a while, in developmental years still too, on top of it. Like, no, like, I can tell you, I got the self-awareness to tell you that this is fucking terrible. I don't have the will to get out of it. I'm lacking the discipline. I'm not even trying some days, to be honest. And I really do need to, because I know that life is a marathon, not a sprint. And it's like, I'm fucking over the years I could be seeing, the opportunities I could be having, because I don't want to just put the effort in to go seek the help I need, and, you know, to tell myself to limit this fucking mind altering chemical. Like, I'm not trying. You know, I'm telling my friends that I'm not trying. I really should. I really do need to. And I keep telling myself I will. And at some point I really fucking do, because I'm going to die doing this type of shit. Like, it's not a question. And, you know, for the amount of dreams I have for the future, for the amount of things I want to see, it makes no sense to keep essentially killing myself on a daily basis. Like, I gotta break out of this. But to get back to my point, it's just like, no, I think I do have a little basis to speak on, to try to tell, you know, my friends, older and younger, definitely my younger homies, that, you know, you gotta really stay away from this type of shit. I can tell you exactly what type of situations you might get into, and, you know, those are the moments where you need to let that shit go. Like, recently one of my homies just got broken up with by his, I think it was his first girlfriend. And one of the first things I told him was just like, under no circumstance do you go to substances to deal with this type of shit. All right, do almost anything else you gotta do. You know, go get lost in a game, go get lost with some friends, do a bunch of stupid young shit that ain't gonna hurt you. Fucking cry for a week straight, a month straight. That's all right. I've fucking been there. Hell, I damn near fucking cried earlier today just working out because I was stressed. Like my mental state ain't fucking clean by any means. But, like, you know, it's okay to cry, because if you're gonna cry, it's better to just cry than to just jump into something that you really shouldn't get into. Something that can lead you down a path that you can't understand until it already happens, you know, until it's too late. Because I won't say it's too late for me, but by the time I recognized it, it was too late. I was super young. Because the dude that got broken up with, he's younger than me. Like, around his age, I was already fucked up. Like, by the time when I was his age, I was already in a state of trying to get drunk or high every single, like, waking moment that I felt like I could handle it. Yeah, I said a caveat of I can handle it, because I would still have to go to school and, you know, see authority figures and all that shit. But, like, the moment I would get out of class, I'd go straight back to my room and I'd just get high as a motherfucker. And then the moment the high would go down, I'd fucking get high as a motherfucker again. And I would just let that fucking high just keep refreshing itself over and over and over again, until I couldn't sit up, couldn't be awake, or I needed to not be awake. And then I'd go to sleep, drag myself through the day, and then just repeat. It's a dangerous fucking cycle. And it's a cycle I never checked myself on until it was too late either. Because it's just those immediate moments of satisfaction. It's just not worth the damage, basically. Like, it's just not worth it. It makes no sense. I can't find fun. I couldn't find fun in regular shit without being fucked up. I still can't. Like, my brain is rewired in so many ways. I feel like the only way I could really make it known is I need to do like more research, either into my own head and experiences, or just, actually keep reading more medical journals like I do, just so I can fully try to make it known, just like in general, especially to my homies. It's just like, you will fuck yourself up here. Like, it's not a question. Like, you can't just binge drink for a couple months, and then just expect to come out of it unscathed, the same person. You fucking won't. You fucking will not. You will break somewhere along the line. Which, yeah, no, you will break. You will break. Because one of my greatest issues, which kind of comes back to me trying to remember who I quote unquote used to be, who I am, just so I can kind of understand maybe where to guide myself. Realize that I don't really have. I don't know me. I don't know myself at all, honestly, which seems like a really weird question. Honestly, it seems like a really weird statement, because you are you. So it's just like, oh, well, how do you not know who you are? Like how does that make sense in the first place? Like, clearly, if anyone knows you, it would be yourself. But like, no, I don't have a good sense of self at all. It's a weird physical way of putting it is, imagine seeing someone different every single time you look in the mirror. Because every time I think of myself, I always have almost something different to say. And that's been like exasperated in a way. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's been, that idea has gotten worse from just social interactions and like my issues with sobriety in general. Because and it's actually funny now that I think about talking about this, because I've had this idea written down for the last couple of days. I knew I wanted to talk about it on Monday. So basically yesterday, 2 days ago, for being technical, I remember I had a meeting with one of my coworkers, and because she was getting me up to speed with a project she's been working on, so I can join her on it. And randomly, like the meeting we had, because there's just the two of us, kind of like derailed, and she was just kind of like talking, and I'm like, all right, whatever. Whole different thing, but I didn't really care too much. But I remember she said like the exact same words that I had written down, which was like, she felt herself to be a social chameleon in a way, or I think she just said only chameleon. But like, she talked a lot about how, like, if you would talk to one person and ask, oh, what do you like, let's just use a code name, X. Why not? Like, if you just walked up to one person and say, oh, what do you think of X? They would say, oh, she's joyful, outgoing, all these things. But if you talk to a different person, she felt as if they would be like, oh no, X is a really quiet, really kept to themselves type of person. And like, she's also self-aware of that like type of dichotomy of personality, and that dichotomy being perceived by other people. And like, I guess she's been kind of curious, and it's been kind of, maybe it's been messing her up. I don't know. I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat because I've heard like everything been thrown out about me. I've heard everything. It's not even just me, feeling this type of way about myself. I've heard it all. I've heard people call me, good for nothing, a druggie, a loser, unintelligent, I've heard someone call me unlovable before. I've heard it all. He's quiet, he's kept to himself, he doesn't know how to speak, he doesn't want to speak, he doesn't like people, he's angry, he's hostile, he, you know, makes you feel as if he doesn't want you around. I've heard all the negative and just like, you know, I've heard people just say a lot of things that just make it seem like, you know, I don't want them around. I don't enjoy their company. Sometimes it's true. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I don't. But I've like, it's the fact that I've heard everything, because on the same side that I've heard people call me angry, aggressive, hostile, sad, depressed, you know, just like a loner. I've heard people describe me as like, you know, outgoing, energetic, well-spoken, has leadership tendencies. Like, I already don't have a strong sense of self. And the swirling tornado of what everyone else has to say about me isn't aiding that at all. And I don't think it's like a groundbreaking revelation by any means to realize that certain people have other opinions about you. I don't think that idea in itself is groundbreaking, but I guess it's just the how volatile people's opinions are about me. It's just like, it just feels weird, because if people could just, you know, just call me, like, if it was just something as simple as, no, one person calls me introverted, another person calls me extroverted, I think that's fine. You know, I could just chalk that up to, you know, some people are just more comfortable around other people. That's not a crazy phenomenon. Basically, I'd be fine with that. But I feel like I always have to try to uphold a certain type of image with people at times, and I try to uphold the image for the sheer simplicity of not trying to shatter what they see of me, because I don't want to deal with them like, oh, you're acting different today, and two, I just don't know how they would react to me just steadily shifting, because that's how I feel. I feel like I shift through a lot of emotions, so I usually try to keep people at distance unless I'm feeling a type of way. Like I think one of the greater examples I have, honestly, because this guy has kind of seen it all. Because I think I've mentioned it very briefly, because I just don't care to do it too much. I don't want it to be a profession of mine or anything like that. But I used to stream. I spent the entirety of 2023 streaming on Twitch. And when it came to streaming on Twitch, I would only show up when I was feeling in a certain type of mood. I would want to be energetic. I would want to be super talkative. I would want to be provocative, or maybe even insightful for a moment. But like, the whole main thing I wanted myself to portray was that I wasn't depressed, basically. I'd be gloomy, I'd be self-reflective, but I never wanted to just be like a kind of like a pity party for myself in a way. I always tried to hide my anger. I always try to hide away my anger, because I have very bad anger issues, and I've been working on trying to pacify it. But in result of pacifying, you know, a long history of anger issues just means that occasionally it just flares up like really fucking bad. So I've always tried to like keep an iron grip on it, which I think I have been decently. But you know, throughout the year of streaming, one of the people that would constantly come around, like me and him, we would just talk a bunch. We would just talk a bunch to the point where I introduced him to like my main group of friends, and like, you know, he would just come around and he would just chill like one of the boys and all that shit. But like, you know, I brought him close to me. You know, that's my boy. But being close to me, it's like kind of realizing that I got hella fucking issues. A lot of shit I don't talk about on stream, because I try to dance around it. Like he's seen the full volcano, because if you have someone like, I couldn't imagine from his perspective seeing this image of a guy who seems to just be like, you know, kind of like a cheerful drunk. You know, he'll sit around and he'll make a bunch of jokes about everything, and then he turns into, you know, he can get, you know, sometimes I'd turn serious, and if someone brought up something, I'd be super careful with my words. I'd be I try to do my best to understand the situation and see how can I assist. And like kind of seeing the image of someone that has it in control, and then realizing that it's kind of a facade in a way. Because I don't have shit under. I have some shit under control, but at least the last couple months, which is like when I brought him into my circle and all that shit, because I started to quit streaming, he has like seen some things. Honestly, I wish I never showed him, just because I have been super mentally unstable. So like, some days I would like, it's just like super gloomy, depressed, suicidal. 30 minutes later, I'm fucking gleeful, I'm happy, I'm making imitations of people. Next thing you know, I'm saying some foul shit that honestly, some of the shit I've said to some of my friends, I'm surprised I still have them as friends. Because I sometimes just have a tendency to just say the worst shit possible. I just want to say anything that's going to hurt you. It's not about, proving myself is right or proving you wrong or anything. Sometimes I will just say some, terrible things, and I have to own up to it. I do own up to it. I do my best not to do it again. But I've seen, finally wrapping it all back, I've seen the rapid changes in myself. So it's not even like all these weird and different perceptions people have of me is anything but the truth. But it just leaves me confused, because I kind of wish that there was a stable view of me. That way I can, convince myself that I am, I am someone. Because I don't feel like someone. I just feel like a conglomerate. I feel like a couple people just shoved into one body at times. And it's just like, oh, who's gonna come out? Oh, today Happy Hazy's out. And next thing you know, it's just like, oh, this motherfucker just has nothing nice to say about like the world around him. It's a weird feeling. And I try to think about like, how can I fix it? How can I combat it? Because I don't think it's anything weird to just have bad days or bad moments, or angry days, angry moments, sad days. That's that's the game of life. You wouldn't really know happiness without sadness anyway. So that's at least one of the things I try to tell myself, to comfort myself in the fact that, it can't be this bad forever. I'll be all right. I just got to make it through this one moment. But I just wish I had something to really work off of, because I just feel like I haven't known myself for a while. It's been made pretty worse with especially rampant alcohol usage in the last 2 years. Like, I just don't know myself anymore. I don't know what I just don't know what I enjoy. I don't know what I like to do. I don't. I just don't. I really do just feel like I'm just kind of floating around, and I'm just like this entity, and that's really it. But I'd be a liar to say that, my sense of self my lack of sense of self only started with like, the accelerating amount of drug usage, because the more I look back on life, I try to like, find anything, dig for traces of who I was, who I am. I realized I just never really had it together. I've always been questioning who I am and the things I like to do and the things that I like, and just everything in general. Like, it's always been one thing I've always just, how do I put this? Because it feels weird to try to think about this like in real time, even though in real time, that's such a weird way to put it. But I don't know. I've just always have never truly felt like super comfortable in myself. I bounce between stages. Sometimes, I hate myself and I'm really depressed and I'm super anxious about everything and every single part of myself. And other times I'm super megalomaniac and, no one can fucking tear me down. Like I'm the second coming of Kanye West, basically, in his better days. Hope he gets better. But, I don't think there's been like a solid spree of moments outside of recent years, I guess, kind of, where I was comfortable with myself. When I was younger, I really had so many questions for who I was and how I presented myself and should I even like the things I should like. The best way to put it, the years where I should have been comfortable with myself are probably the years where I didn't really like myself too much at all. I met a lot of scrutiny for a lot of the ways that I used to, or I guess a lot of ways that I acted, the ways that I act. And I would try to force myself to change. That way people would leave me alone, or, people would think better of me. I didn't have the confidence to just kind of do what I want and, tell people to fuck off, basically, if they didn't like it. Or they had something to say, I wouldn't really know how to defend myself. I just I would laugh it off, I joke it off, I tell whatever, fuck off. But when I would get back to my room, I'd really, sit down and just kind of really think about what they said. And those words would just kind of echo around me until I decided that they were full of shit, or, I already changed kind of more into who they wanted me to be. And this part's gonna be a little heavy for me, just simply because I guess this is really the first time I'm admitting it. I told my best friend of the last 13, 14 years. I just told him that one of these things, like a month ago. Like I've never opened up about like some of the damage people's words have like really done to me, or just never really opened up too deeply about how I perceive myself. Because I've always talked about with friends how I changed myself by analyzing what people were doing around me and adapting it to myself. And it helped. It really did help in a way. I gained my confidence. I learned how to use my words. I learned how to make friends from understanding what my friends would do. I would see, I'd watch one of my friends just walk up to like a random group of people and just basically just throw himself right into the mix, and they would just accept them. And I would analyze that, and I'd use that to understand what to do. And I think that's all right. I think it's good to learn from people if you're just observing, or you ask them questions. I would sometimes ask my friends how do you make friends, or how do you feel so comfortable doing these type of things? If it's okay, it felt okay because I was inquiring. That was my own decision. But growing up, I had a lot of issues with my own sexuality and gender, on top of everything, because when I was younger, I'm thinking 2010, and if you know anything about 2010s and shit like that, people did not give a fuck about what they were saying, myself included. I've said some terrible things I still regret to this day, and I wish I said better. And if I seen some of those people I used to talk down to and say some bad things to, I'd have nothing but apologies to give. Even if they couldn't remember it, I still would want to apologize, because I didn't say the best things either. But I heard some of the worst shit as well, and people were just everything would always come back to everything would just come back to either you're gay or you're a female. Basically, if people didn't like what you were doing, it would always come back down to that. That's just what it is. I would say the landscape has changed a little bit in recent years now. It definitely has. But that's like the situation I grew up in, and I would just get flack for just stupid shit, man. Some stupid shit, some weird shit, some shit I can see nowadays. even though they'd use different words, different terms, and they'd be a little bit more accepted. Like, I always just heard some stupid shit. Cause like I remember growing up and like I grew up despite my like rampant anger issues that was apparent to everyone in my family. I used to go off just like wanting to play like co-op games all the time. Which is a weird thing to like bring up, honestly. But I think it'll make some sense after some more words. But I grew up just wanting to play co-op games. I wanted to just like, why can't we be friends type shit? Like, let's just, like Little Big Planet, if you know what that is. If you know, you know. I fucking love Little Big Planet as a child. And I would just want to play every single game that required me to work with someone. And I would play them with my brother, my older brother. I'd love to play co-op games with my brother. And I just remember like talking to people about how much I love playing like cooperative games over competitive games like Call of Duty and shit. And people would just be like, oh, that's some gay shit. And they would just like always say that. And it would just, it would spiral down. I've had people say the way I talk sounds gay or feminine. The way that I walk sounds, the way I walk looks gay or feminine. Remember, there was this one pair of shorts I have, which, at the time I didn't have too many shorts, to be honest. And it was a little bit short, kind of a little bit short shorts. And every time I would fucking wear this shit, my friends would just say or the people around me would just say the worst shit. And it would just, it would just spiral on and on and on. It just seemed like everything I did, everything I tried people would just either call me gay or would call me a woman or just say it's quote unquote woman like that I'm doing that shit. And, it would just get to the point where like eternally, when you hear so many people, ridicule your own actions, when you have so many people just like trying to poke at you, you just start to question what you're doing. You're just like, well, are these people right or not? Because I personally, even in this day and age, I'm a firm believer of if you ask 100 people something and 90 of them say the same thing, they might be on to something. I'm a firm believer of majorities. So, I heard all that shit from like fucking, my first memory goes back to like 5 maybe. So like somewhere between like 5, 6, 7, whatever, all the way until, 14 basically. I always heard some motherfuckers just saying some shit like that. Whether it just be just to, make fun of someone, try to put someone down just so they can feel a little bit better or not, whatever it is. Maybe they were actually trying to hurt me with some of the things. I've heard that shit so many times. And, sophomore year of high school moving forward is when that was when I was old enough to really start to digest like everything. That's when my memory bank started to work. The computer starts to chug in the head, and I used to like think about all that shit and like some of the shit people would say to me over and over kind of, was somewhat of a catalyst for me to start really questioning my own sexuality. And with my own sexuality came questioning my own gender. At one point, which, I just want to say, I have never told anyone that I've questioned my gender. I've never told anybody that. Aside of my homie a month ago, I kept that shit to myself. Like, even when I was questioning my own sexuality, when I was, back when I was 14 and basically 15 as well, it kind of carried over. I had a good friend to talk to at the time, and she, was really there for me. She was able to help me just kind of basically realize it wasn't a big fucking deal. If you want, whatever you want to do in that type of regard ain't too much of an issue to nobody else really. And, if that's an issue to someone, there ain't someone to keep around. That's what I took away from it at the very least, that's how I took it. It's just like why are you so frustrated on like the label for sexuality? Just, dude, if you like dudes, just fucking like them and kiss them. Like, who cares? Like, it's whatever. If someone doesn't like you doing that type of shit, then, fuck them. And that was like comforting, and that really helped me with that identity issue. But in the midst of like really trying to figure out my own sexuality, I remember I would always just like, all the thoughts would come in and kick in of like all the shit people would say to me, and the, even my own perceptions, whether it just be self-made or because of what people were saying to me. At one point, I really did not feel comfortable as a male because people, would keep comparing me to a female, and that includes physicality. I gave the advisory earlier. Consider this another one real fast, but like, I've been sexually assaulted a couple times. Like, growing up, a lot of people would just do a lot of weird shit to me. Whether it's just like, weird humping shit. A lot of people that have just like slapped my ass and groped me and shit like that. Like, when you take what a lot of people say about like just being a man, or just like all the weird shit people would say, it just felt like I just kept getting like fucking, I mean, I did get violated, that's not a question, but like, I don't know, I felt like it seemed like some things that happened to me like kind of violated the idea of being a man in my head, or just like it just violated who I felt like I was. And I really had to like, sit myself down and just think about that shit, and just like, is that am I not who I think I am in a way? Like, do I feel like I'm like hiding behind something? I can't. I'm struggling. I really should have wrote some more shit down for this, because I don't know how to really talk about this out loud. In fact, that some of those statements, some things I just said, is some things I've never talked about with even myself. I'm almost leaving myself speechless, because I don't know. Like, the only thing I can do is really just jump to the end here, which was, I don't think that was it. I stopped questioning my gender. Like, I identify as a male. That's it. That's it. That's it. Like, no, like, I just felt super violated in a lot of moments, and I just don't stand for that shit anymore. I don't think what's the words? I don't feel like I'm someone trapped in a body. I got identity issues, but that's just more so from that's just like personality wise, in terms of like my actual physicality and everything like that. Like, no, I was comfortable with it. Just people just kept fucking with me, and that was it. But like, to bring it all full circle, simply because I don't even want to think about that type of shit. I don't want to think about that shit anymore, because I mean, it's behind me, and I don't fully know what to say. I just don't question that time period of life, those thoughts anymore. I've always dealt with issues with how I see myself in the mirror, from the way I act, the way I do things, the things that I like, the actual physical body I see in the mirror. As far as my memory goes, in which my memory doesn't predate sobriety, I've always just seemed to have some major question about myself and how I should be acting and condoning. And it's definitely been worse. It's been terrible in the last couple months. I'm not gonna lie. I've been pretty fucked up lately. I've been pretty fucked up. A lot of shit has been happening in my life that I'm like trying to deal with, and it feels like a lot of shit has been unpacked. I've been probably more manic than I've ever been, and I guess I gotta wait until I get out of this period to figure out exactly why that's been. Or I know kind of why, but it's still kind of taking me for a loop here. But yeah, just everything's just been fucked. Everything's just been kind of fucked. Yeah. I don't really have anything else to really say. I don't really have too many good lessons here outside of, stay away from drugs. I think that's something I'm always going to really stand by. Stay away from drugs, really have long talks with yourself occasionally. Have talks with somebody if you feel comfortable doing so as well, whether it be a trusted licensed professional or a really good friend, because I've had a lot of friends help me throughout the way with all sorts of identity issues, sexuality, and just, who am I? Am I introverted, extroverted? Do I like talking to people? Do I not like talking to people? I've had a lot of people help me throughout the walks of life. So, but yeah, otherwise, at the end of the day, just, I really do believe that trying to be comfortable in your own skin is something to really strive for. And we're striving for trying to be comfortable in your own skin. If you gotta push people away, push them away. Because if they don't like who you are, why keep them around? Because if you're just trying to hide something so they stay around, they'll probably just bite you at another point in life, to be completely honest. It's way better to live life as you want, as opposed to living life the way someone else wants you to. Fuck them. Yeah, fuck them. That's probably the only thing I could really say after the last hour or something like that in terms of trying to help someone else, because otherwise, I don't know. This was actually just a good moment for myself to really put out and also kind of understand what the fuck is wrong with me, I think that's the only way to really put it. This has been a good moment for me to just kind of, this is like my hour of therapy with myself, basically. I'm laying down on the bench, and at the same time I'm sitting in the chair with my little notepad, just trying to figure out what the hell's going on. But yeah, this is the type of shit I do in my head a lot. I just kind of sit around. I just kind of think a lot, and I try to figure out how can I be a better person, because I really do just want to be a better person, both for myself and for the people around me, because I worry a lot about what I do for the people around me, in hopes that I don't hurt them, because sometimes I really do feel like I just hurt the people around me. And I'd imagine if it was really that way, then it would have left, because a lot of people I hang out around, a lot of people I hang out around with, at least, are, to my knowledge, to my perception, comfortable enough with telling people to fuck off if they don't want them around, or, at the very least, they'll make the exit themselves. But I really, I've been pretty hell-bent lately trying to get myself back on my own feet, because I know I've fallen. I know I have fallen a bit, but I don't want to stay here forever, and I don't really plan on staying here forever. Therefore, I think I'm going to fix everything that I've broken so far. Everything that is just broken so far. I don't know if some of these things are my doing or not. But for now, all I'm doing is putting it all on the table.